Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. I'm Rufai Yassini.
And I'm Adesoa Omorwan.
Often regarded as Africa's sleeping giant, Nigeria has the potential to become one of the most inspiring economic stories, given the size and scale of business and investment opportunities. Activating this potential has become elusive due to various crises and strife. As experts say, Nigeria is replete with a lot of opportunities, and joining us this morning to discuss this and more is marketing communications expert Brian Ebden. Welcome to the morning show, Brian.
A very good morning to you, and thank you for having me here today.
We're talking about opportunities in Nigeria. Are there really opportunities in Nigeria?
Well,
and where are these opportunities?
First of all, you must understand that Nigeria is a very ancient country.
Ancient?
How?
Ancient. Well, Yoruba people are more than 100,000 years old. Now, and this has been proven by the Simmons Genome Diversity Project housed in Harvard, which have proved that, they took 80 of the world's greatest genetic scientists and put them away for 2 years to discover where did humanity begin genetically speaking, and they proved that Yoruba people have been here. Yoruba people as a group, of course they weren't called Yoruba people at that point, have been here for more than 100,000 years. And that the second oldest genetic group, Khoi in South Africa, originated in Nigeria 87,000 years ago and then migrated. And that every human group originating outside of Africa, originated from Yoruba genetics now. But having said that, that is just one element of the potential of Nigeria. Nigeria has got immense potential, both externally driven and internally driven. I would say that Nigeria has got far more potential from a tourist point of view. Let me give you an example. Between 8.8 to 11 million southwestern Nigerians were stolen out of Nigeria and put into slavery. It's between 8.8 to 11 million. Now, understand my point. 64% of all African Americans, listen to this number, 64% of all African Americans have got Yoruba and Igbo genetics. So if you were to take a picture and put Muhammad Ali, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, Tiger Woods, all of these amazing African Americans, Michael Jackson et al., 64% of all of them come from Nigeria. However...
That's like 1 in 3 of all of them? 1 in 3, 1 in 4?
What?
That's like 1 in 3 or 1 in 4?
No, it's more 3 in 4.
Well,
3 out of 4.
3 out of 4.
Yep. So, but however, now remember when Barack Obama and his wife came to Africa. Where did they go?
Ghana.
They went to Ghana. Michelle Obama has got 86% Yoruba genetics. She goes to Ghana, to Accra, believing that that's where she comes from. No, you didn't come from Ghana, you came from Nigeria. In fact, you came from Badagry. However, if you go to Badagry and you look at the condition of Badagry, which is... So you got two elements which I'll come to. One element was the actual physical place where people lived, which is Badagry. And then you got the spiritual home of all of these people. I'm talking about Brazil as well, which has got the third biggest black population in the world. All Nigeria, all from Nigeria. 98% of the genetic pool in Brazil is... Especially
in the state of Bahia.
All over Nigeria, all over South America. I'm talking about. You see, a lot of people say Bahia, but I mean, you could go to a place like
Cuba.
Cuba. You could go to Ecuador. You'll find tons of people. Same with Argentina. The Argentinians murdered more than 2 million Africans to whiten the place. But anyway, having said that, so here you've got a market of African Americans who spend upwards of $5 billion annually on three trips overseas. And all of them believe they come from either from Ghana or Egypt. So they go to Egypt, spend anywhere between $500 to $1 billion in Egypt, believing they come from Egypt. They spend $500 million in Ghana, believing they come from Ghana. Now, Nigeria has not positioned itself to say, this is the truth. Because you see, there's another element to that. Another element is that there's a living lineage of African Americans in terms of where your spiritual home is. And your spiritual home resides in Ile-Ife, in Osun State. And that monarch is still living. That monarch goes back tens of thousands of years. So the current Oni of Ife, or Jaja II, in terms of his bloodlines, is the authentic human being, and a bloodline authentic, going back many thousands of years in uninterrupted form. And there's nowhere else in the world that you can find this. The crown he wears, the Are crown, is the oldest monarchy crown in known history. The festivals, there are many festivals.
Yeah, many festivals.
Many festivals.
There's a festival every year. Every day of the year.
It's 365. But Olojo is a very important festival. The Olojo Festival. Olojo Festival celebrates the African New Year, the oldest New Year known to man. It gets between 300,000 to 400,000 Nigerians. It's the second biggest festival in Africa. The seventh biggest in the world, but nobody knows about it. Seventh biggest in the world.
So how can we harness this? Recently, Senator Pamela Bruce, this brings us to the floor, was talking about a bill that people from overseas that are of Nigerian extraction, should be reintegrated in society, and they want to come back home. The Senate did shut it down. They said no. A lot of illegal aliens and terrorists were going to pour into the country. I saw that bill. I felt quite not happy about the fact that a lot of people didn't understand what he was saying. Would you suggest that bringing bills like that, because it has to be a deliberate effort, because
Absolutely.
How did Ghana become the mainstay of this? Ghana became the mainstay because Kwame Nkrumah in the 60s did give the chance for a lot of people to come back. So a lot of African Americans were coming back and getting Ghanaian heritage. And that's what an average African American thinks is Ghanaian by extraction.
Of course.
So how can we do what Kwame Nkrumah did in the 60s?
Well, okay, your Stokely Carmichael went back and resettled in Ghana. Okay, so the thing is, of course, it's a brilliant concept, but Nigeria's got a couple of issues, and a couple of issues is the security issue. And the security issue, people believe, and this is again a positioning of government, and I'll come to what the current dispensation has been doing, and they've been doing amazing work, understanding that there's a process needs to be put into place. So security is an issue, and image. In other words, how do you image Nigeria to the rest of the world? Nigeria suffers from an image problem, and I'll give you an example. The image is we 419 people, we kidnapping. Nigeria's got so much kidnapping. Well, the UK has got 3 times more kidnappings. This is the UK. England has got 3 times more kidnapping than Nigeria has got. Oh, the police are killing people. South Africa has got the highest homicide rate. Cape Town, which is
Where are you from?
Well, I'm from Cape Town. Cape Town has the most beautiful city in the world, the most wanted city that people from all over the world want to travel to, has got the highest homicide rate in the world, the highest poverty, the most inequality in the world. But yet, because of how the image has been managed over a period of time, here in Nigeria, people are quick to say that something happened in Nigeria and quick to tell the rest of the world, Nigerians are kidnapping. Oh my God, the police are killing people. South Africa kills, the South African police kills 1,500 people per annum. 1,500, of which 53% on average are murdered by the police while in custody. And here you're talking about Nigeria's police is probably of the most docile police in the world, by far. But because
Would you say that with all of this NSAS thing going on, you saw the person killed recently? I say Nigerian police is quite docile.
Okay.
I'll take you up on that.
Fine, I'm quite happy to do that. How much times, you can just go on Google and see how many black people are murdered by white police in America. And now you're talking about one guy killed by SARS. The problem you have is that Nigeria is a country with 200 million people. Those kinds of things are going to happen. They are anomalies, and that needs to be worked through. But Nigerian police, in terms of its homicide rate to the general public, is of the lowest in the world, if not the lowest. If not the lowest. I'm not talking, of course you got countries like Germany where they don't even have guns. The police don't even have guns.
Norway and so. Cases of extrajudicial killings and accidental discharge are not tenable?
Of course it's terrible. It goes without saying. However, it doesn't imply that you have to show the rest of the world that, you know what, you're so bad.
So you're saying we should keep numb about these things and not tell it to the rest of the world?
Okay, so let me tell you what we did in 1994. We had a conference of all of the role players in South Africa. And we said, how are we going to build? We set a target of 20 years, that we're going to have 10 million visitors in South Africa within 10 million years, well, within 20 years. What would be the process by which we need to achieve this? One of those issues, apart from numerous issues, was about controlling the media. In other words, what stories do you allow out? What stories do you put onto the wires? Now, in as much as you talk about SARS, you forget about the 44 miners that were murdered in South Africa by the police on live TV. Thank you very much. Have you had a situation like that in Nigeria? Not in living memory. No.
No, we had a case like that in the 40s.
Well, in the 40s.
It's called the Iva Valley killings.
Okay, in the 40s, yeah. I take your point. But that is a very, very long time ago. But I'm just saying modern Nigeria. Yet Nigeria has got far more wonderful stories about Nigerians achieving amazing things. There has not been, and I say this categorically, without apology, as a foreigner, let me tell you, that the people, the human beings, the human groups that are exceeding and excelling above everybody else are Nigerians.
Yeah. Okay.
So where do we begin? Do we begin with sports? Do we get the top, the heavyweight boxing champion in the world? Anthony Joshua was Nigerian. If you go to UFC, right now, the middleweight, the welterweight, the one guy is from Auchi, the other one is from, he's right here. He's right here. He's style bender. Israel Adesanya. Yeah. He's right here in Lagos as we speak. Okay, and you've got people who are inventing things. Concussion, the movie Concussion, was about a Nigerian. You have a Nigerian doctor who will take a child out and
teachers are returning.
But nobody celebrates. You got a 10-year-old child who has got no coaching of chess, no masters teaching him. Beat the pants off these guys. Let me go further. You come from Ogun State. So you speak Yoruba, you speak English, and you speak Pidgin. English is probably your third language, in truth, because when I speak to you, you're translating it into Yoruba, retranslating it back and speaking to me in English. It's an amazing feat. Only Africans do this, by the way. Yet, you've got the world chess Scrabble champion.
Scrabble.
He's a Nigerian, Igbo guy of Nigeria. You're not aware that for how many years the group Scrabble champions have been Nigerians. In fact, 3 years ago, a friend of mine was an adjudicator at the African Scrabble Championship in Joburg. I said to him, what? My friend, Nigeria going to win everything. He said, no, Nigerians. I said, okay, let's put money on it.
Is that not based on the can-do Nigerian spirit? You know?
No, sir. I disagree.
I disagree. Delilah Aliyu, the designer of Chevy Volt electric car, is a Nigerian. Is that not based on the can-do Nigerian spirit? You know, that
I disagree.
What is it?
It's a genetic issue.
So Nigerians are genetically good?
You're genetically far superior to anybody else. And that's the truth. That's the elephant in the room that nobody wants to take notice of. And it's a fact that your genetics, you have a predisposition of your genetics. You cannot exceed your genetic capabilities. Now, let me even say this. I believe Nigerians can be 10 times better, 1,000 times better. It's because your standard is low. Your standard is a European standard, which is not even a standard by your potential. If you take J.J. Okocha, who grew up playing, just kicking a ball around, you have not produced a footballer anywhere close to that magician. And you know why? Because your standard is the EPL, which is a low, dismal standard. So your football has been doing this, has been declining over the years.
As with many other things. But let's talk about harnessing this, because we talked about marketing the country and the image. So how do we do this? Because there have been several attempts, and I know that we are part of one of these campaigns. Yeah. Change begins with me. Just rebranding Nigeria. There's one particular one you were with. I think it's the Change Begins with Me campaign. You headed.
Also, you in WTO.
Yeah, but you see, most of these concepts and most of these attempts just run into the wall and then falls flat. How do we harness this great potential that you said the country has?
It is a process. And one has to look at you have to decolonize Nigeria, first of all. Nigeria needs decolonization, like Africa needs decolonization. We don't believe that we decolonize. We think that the colonizers have gone home.
How do you decolonize? After 50 years?
Okay, what do you have to do? You have to begin with education. Let's look at Nigeria's educational system. You don't do history.
Yeah.
So
how do you decolonize without teaching history?
So I'm going to, exactly, this is what I'm going to give you a quick example of, if you don't mind. Nigerians are taught, the last time you did history, that, you know, you had the Nok culture, 1300 BC, did little terracotta stuff. However, you find an 8,500-year-old boat in Yobe. And you go, excuse me, who did the numbers there? There were 14 guys rowing a boat. There was an ocean-going boat, by the way. You have Ifa, which is more than 12,000 years old, in binary code.
Yeah.
Far the 250 Odu, far more advanced than anything on the planet. I'm talking even up to today. Now, you have to decolonize yourself. You have to decolonize yourself in terms of your teaching, your history, your rich tapestry of history. You raise the issue of Ibu Uku, but that was in 900,000 years. You've got the oldest writing known to man. It's Nigerian, Nsibidi. The oldest writing system, and that was thousands of characters. It was taught in your schools 100 years ago, but it's been removed from your schools. You take a child, a Nigerian child, and you tell him there are 26 letters in the alphabet. A child by the age of 5, a Chinese kid by the age of 5, understands 5,000 symbols. But yet, you had 25,000 symbols in Nsibidi. So you've removed that, and you've taken the mentality of an African child, of a Nigerian child, and crunched it into next to nothing. Whereas the potential of the African child, particularly a Nigerian child, genetically, we're talking about genetic disposition, is capable of far more than that. I recall as a child growing up in South Africa that I wanted to come to University of Ebden in 1980. Was the center for black learning and black thinking on the planet. Today, have a look at Ebden. Which student wants to come to Ebden from overseas? And here you have thinkers, great thinkers, amazing thinkers. So you need to...
Uli Bear.
You have many. Great writers, the greatest African writers in the world. The greatest African writers, Ben Okri, Chinua Achebe, Wale Soyinka. These are amazing thinkers. These people are thinkers. Philosophers. You had philosophers long before anybody understood the notion of philosophy.
Stories, but how do we tell them? How do we bring them out there? I mean, we can talk about stories. We can talk about the fact that we had one of the biggest walls in the world in Benin before the Great Wall of China was built. Yeah. We can talk about those things, but how do we tell the stories? Because obviously, why all of this lack of belief is happening is because we're not telling the stories. The stories are not.
But we're agreeing with it, and that's why the stories need to be told. The stories shouldn't be about witches and wizards. I mean, if you look at your Nollywood, is about witches and wizards, bedeviling yourself, bedeviling your ancient philosophies, bedeviling your belief systems, bedeviling your culture, your traditions. So people believe that anything outside of Nigeria has got more value of those things inside. And I agree with you, of course. There were two walls. I'm sure you're aware. You know, the two walls. The wall of Benin was far bigger than the wall of China. Far bigger, by 800 kilometers. But people won't believe that. The first city in the world to have streetlights was Benin. When the English came there were two pythons, solid bronze pythons wrapped around the gateways, or the main entrance. And they stole it. So you have a stolen legacy, a stolen history. But you need to reclaim that, and you reclaim that through a process. So let's begin with a process. I think the Honorable Minister Elijah Mohammed has begun that process. UNWTO has got now a partnership between United Nations World Tourism Organization and saying over the next 5 to 10 years how you're going to develop and package Nigeria as a tourist destination. But it's no use saying, you know, we've got all of these things and tourists rush in, and you know what happens? The first tourist gets kidnapped, somebody gets killed, like the English lady that went to Kaduna the other day, and all of a sudden, all of the newspaper, everybody's going to freak out. And you have what you refer to as a travel alert. That is problematic. So, and this is what we did in South Africa. We have to say this 20 years. What do we do to be able to develop this industry for over the next 20 years? But you know, in Nigeria, you want to invest 10 naira. Tomorrow you want to pick 1,000 naira. So you have a culture shift. There has to be a fundamental culture shift. And this is training. Your service levels in Nigeria are pathetically low. Therein lies a massive opportunity. Because, so you have to come and say, you know what? Service levels in Nigeria are low. So all you have to do is offer great service. There's potential. And you know, in Nigeria, the minute there's an entry into the market, there will be competition. Nigerians thrive on competition. Am I right or wrong? Mm-hmm. So, you know, and you have to present all of these things, and it's a long process. This is not going to be done overnight. It's going to be a very long process. But the potentials, and let me give you another example. You have so many things. So I'll give you a specific example in South Africa. There's a cave called in Mossel Bay, which is about 400 kilometers from Cape Town, where they believe the oldest, where we all come from genetically, the group of people were there 200,000 years ago, and they migrated, of course, up to Ife 137,000 years ago. But for the past 12 years, there's been 14 groups of universities, research groups from around the world. 14. Each group has got a minimum of 15 to 20 people. They have spent $55 million US researching that place. That's one place. $55 million US. You've got stuff all over Nigeria. You could just dig anywhere and you're going to find something. So, but nobody comes to Nigeria because people are scared. Ask yourself why there's travel alerts, etc., etc., etc. But these are all process things. Think about it, that if you could have groups of people coming into Ife, going to Benin, going up to Yobe, going to Kaduna, that are going to research these things. And they, you know, they're not going to spend a day, a week, a month. They're going to spend years. And you know why? Because you've got 100,000 years of history, which means you've got layers, 100,000 layers of sediment. You know how deep you have to go down to dig for that, and that takes time. So you have to, so the potential just from anthropological, historical tourism is monstrous. There is no country in the world that has got this potential. This is a treasure trove just sitting there.
What is the role of government in all of this? Because again, I bring up the question I asked you about the campaigns we've had, several campaigns by different governments, including this administration with Alhaji Lai Mohammed instigating that the change begins with me campaign, just to change the mindset of Nigerians, to begin to portray the country as one that is not so monstrous and to attract foreigners. So what is the role of government in this? Because you would agree with me that these campaigns have not worked so far.
In fairness, one has to look at the mathematical numbers. Let's argue, not pointing fingers, but you had 16 years of, let's call it misrule. And that's 16 units. How much units are you going to take just to get back to zero? You're going to take 16, you have to add X amount of units to stop it, and then another 16 units to move it back to zero. And then you have to apply more energy to move it into the positive. So it takes time. There is no, I think people need to understand there's no magic bullet, there's no magic wand here. It's going to take a lot of time and a lot of work, and people need to be aware and alive to the fact that it's going to take a long, long time. If you go back 30 years, and if you've ever read Mao Zedong's Red Book, Mao Zedong predicted in 30 years' time what would happen in 30 years' time. Read his book. It's very interesting. You will see what he predicted has come to pass. 30 years, you will not speak any language but Mandarin. Even he didn't speak Mandarin. He had to learn. He had to learn Mandarin on pain of death. So everybody spoke one language, so everybody could understand everybody else. And there was pure socialism that came into play. For 30 years, everybody worked to the greater good of the collective. And 30 years later, all the doors were open. Now, all of a sudden, China was unleashed.
But that movement wasn't viable because it was only after the Cultural Revolution finished and Deng Xiaoping came in 79 that China came out to the world and developed.
But exactly, but go back to the Red Book and read it. And you will understand that for X amount of time, we're going to build as a nation. And the problem is in Nigeria is everybody's pulling in every direction. Yet, I do believe that when Nigerians decide, when you decide to come together as a unit, I believe and I firmly see this, in the next 10 to 15 years. And Nigeria will be the greatest country on the face of earth in many, many ways, because you have that potential. You have the genetic potential. You have potential that you prove. Who are the greatest scientists on earth right now? Who are the greatest mathematicians, the greatest thinkers, the greatest athletes? It's all there. So it's not as if you're not covering ground. That this is not new ground. You don't have to, invent something again. You do this on a continual.
It's just to market it.
Exactly, but that's going to take. It's the marketing, but at the same time, it's the process. So you have to put all of these things into place that will then benefit and be able to bring this into reality. So it's doable, very, very doable.
Thank you so much for being here.
It's my absolute pleasure. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Appreciate you. Adesua?
Yes, we have to go. And that brings us to the end of the morning show today. Many thanks to you for watching. I'm Adesua Omorwan.
And I'm Rufai Zin.
Goodbye.